Blog Talk Radio.
Franchise interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews, an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 15 years now, we've been asking the Entrepreneurs of 101. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show today. Well, we're meeting with Dr. Jason Helfrich, the CEO and co-founder of 100% Chiropractic. And 100% Chiropractic is a family of full-service wellness clinics that offer cutting-edge chiropractic care, massage therapy, full line of supreme quality nutritional supplements. We're going to talk to Dr. Jason about that in just a moment on Franchise Interviews. So stick around because we have a great show.
Are you one of those special people who are willing to go after your dreams and goals? Are you ready to fulfill that dream of owning your own business with the security of a proven brand? The opportunity to take control of your future and own a Rita's Italian Ice franchise is within your reach.
Rita's is seeking success-oriented individuals who are ready to make a change in their life, and Rita's offers unparalleled training and support to assure your success. And did you know the frozen treat industry is a recession-proof industry, and there are Rita's in 23 states currently with 540 stores open. Rita's Italian Ice has been around for 25 years and is listed as a top-performing franchise by the Wall Street Journal.
Now here's the really good part. Rita's Italian Ice is a unique and amazing taste treat. It's smoother than a snow cone, and it combines ice with real fresh fruit. The real fruit adds dramatically to the taste, and it comes in over 40 flavors. The ice and fruit are mixed on site and made fresh daily, and it is delicious.
You'll want to know more about this exciting and successful franchise opportunity. Go to www.ownaritas.com and get all your questions answered. That's www.ownaritas.com to take control of your dreams and future today. You don't want to wait any longer to be a part of this adventure. www.ownaritas.com.
Hi, this is Connie McDermott, Administrative Assistant for Franchise Interviews, LLC, and you're listening to Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 15 years now, we've been asking the Entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and as we were saying earlier, we have a great show. Well, we're meeting with Dr. Jason Helfrich, the CEO and co-founder of 100% Chiropractic. And 100% Chiropractic is a family of full-service wellness clinics that offer cutting-edge chiropractic care, massage therapy, and a full line of supreme quality nutritional supplements. Hi, Jason. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Marty. Pleasure to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you today.
Likewise, Jason. It's great to have you on the show. We always like to ask our guests, where are you calling from today, Jason?
Just north of San Diego, here in a little town called Rancho Santa Fe. So essentially San Diego.
Yeah, beautiful part of the country. I guess it's not cold there like it is here in Eastern Pennsylvania, is it?
You know what? It's a little rainy today, which is one of our 2 days of rain of the year. But yeah, so kind of, I guess we'll say seasonal and holiday. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Maybe, Jason, we can kind of go back to the beginning. I was reading your background. I mean, I thought it was such an interesting story because I know, I think at one point you and your wife were kind of in the restaurant industry. And, maybe we can kind of go back to the catalyst or, the beginning of 100% Chiropractic, how it come about.
Yeah, we did. We both went to college kind of to run a restaurant, and eventually were running restaurant chains and opened our own and loved it. I still love that business.
Yeah.
And we're patients of chiropractic offices and really agreed with the philosophy and did that. But one day we just kind of realized this isn't what we want to do forever. We want to make a little more purpose, lasting purpose, and we want to do something that, is going to allow us to achieve maybe some dreams and goals and things that we want to do. So we sold the restaurant and then packed up the family. At the time, we had one young son who was under one, and went to grad school out in Davenport, Iowa, and had two more boys while we were going to school, and both got our doctorates there and graduated in 2004. Yeah.
That's fantastic. It's a great story. We kind of gave a little brief description of 100 Chiropractic in the introduction of the show, Jason, but maybe, you could talk to our listeners about, the franchise and the model.
Well, when Vanessa and I, my wife Vanessa, who's also a chiropractor, opened our first practice in 2004 in Colorado Springs, we set out with the goal of having a successful practice and just, building our life and being happy and doing that. And so we had a lot of business background, much more business background than probably most people that graduate with their doctorate have, since we had done restaurants prior and had some good business experience. So we experienced some relatively quick growth out of the gate and really had a good mix of the customer service of a restaurant and kind of the feel of a spa, if you will. And people resonated with it at a high level. And we were able to be very successful very quickly, and so much so that we got to the point where we couldn't see another patient. There wasn't an extra 2 minutes in a day. And so we said, are we either going to cap off and be at this point, or should we try to reproduce and see if, if it's personality based, is it us or is it our systems? And so we opened our second one we waited about 4 or 5 years to open our second one. And that was about 2009, and it did very, very well also. And that kind of started, okay, if 2, then why not 4? And if 4, why not 10? And et cetera, right? So.
And today, I think 100% Chiropractic is over 100 units, aren't you, Jason?
We have 105 sold. We have 65 open, and we're selling right around 5 to 10 a month at this point. So it's a beautiful journey that we're on. We're very blessed. It's an incredible. We love what we do, though, and I think people pick up on that when they're looking at a franchise to open. So I think that shows and that resonates with them at a high level.
That's wonderful. I've always told too, Jason, that somewhere between that 65 to 100 mark is always the magic number for a franchise. As far as like economies of scale and things like that, and building the brand. So I think it's wonderful that you're at that point. It's interesting because you're telling the story in the beginning. Because you do have this business background. It made me think of we used to have a neighbor that lived nearby, and he was a chiropractor. And he started his own practice, but he would always come to me because he knew I taught marketing for Purdue University, and so he was always asking for advice because he was a great chiropractor, but just didn't have the business background, So it makes sense. Do you encounter that? Are these? And I'm sure we'll talk about it, but are these some of your franchisees? Is people who went to chiropractic school and then don't know the business background of it?
So much so, and there's so many amazing chiropractors out there. Which is about half of our business model is chiropractors that open a practice. Right. The other half is successful business people that want to then go off into retirement or, diversification of their investments and things. And so they're looking to do that. But there's so many docs out there that just don't understand how to run a business or have the funding to run a business. Right. And so, it's never easy to do so, but if you have the systems in place and the support staff, instead of spinning 300 plates a day trying to do everything from insurance billing to marketing, the caregiver, you can actually focus on what's important to you, which is taking care of those patients, developing that staff, and really providing a first-class experience, and let somebody else take care of all the other nuances of running a successful practice behind the scenes.
Right. It seems to me, too, that, guess your industry, Jason, is recession resistant in the sense that, when people go to a chiropractor, it's not like you could just stop going. It makes me think of, the theme of the show last year. It was hard to get through one show without talking about COVID. But, what did you learn from the COVID experience? Were there any takeaways from that?
Well, I think COVID has brought people to a point where they're asking questions that chiropractic has wanted them to ask for some time, which is, how can I take ownership of my health, and what can I do to give myself the best chance to thrive in life? For a while, there's a lot of people that understood that, but now people are really asking that question.
Sure.
And so we grew double-digit percentage in every location through COVID. As people were coming in and doing exactly what they wanted to. So, they wanted to know what supplements to take. How does chiropractic tie into the overall health? How does stretch therapy tie into it? Massage therapy? What can I do to take care of myself? And I think we needed to get people to ask that question because it's still being avoided. It's all about what can I take outside in as opposed to what can I do nutritionally, as far as diet and exercise goes. There's a lot of things. And if people see this play out in COVID, they see, why does this healthy 19-year-old not even know that they're sick?
Right.
But why does this other person just get devastated? But looking at it, they're 100 pounds overweight and, their diet isn't that great. So there's a huge impact of how you go into COVID with how you're going to come out of COVID.
It's great you have all these additional services, Jason. I was seeing, you get into x-rays, you were just mentioning nutritional supplements, massage. It's really, it's kind of what I guess separates 100 Chiropractic from maybe competitors who are out there, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that, patients resonate with the fact that we're really full service. And so when we bring someone in, we take an x-ray of their spine and we want to go over that with the patient. We have what's called an empowerment session where we sit down and listen to what they're all about. What do they want to accomplish? Empower them to make the best decision on their health, not just tell them what we recommend. People now want to be part of the decision in their health. They don't want to just be told what to do. They need to buy into it. If they don't, then it's not going to work. So, chiropractic is, a $15 billion industry. And massage therapy is $15 billion industry. Supplements are a $15 billion. And so there's a lot of money on the table that people are willing to invest to take the best care of themselves or their family. I think the way that we roll that out to patients, introduce that to patients, and the customer service they get behind that, people are lining up to get into the practices, and that's exciting to see.
That was really clever, and I guess this is probably where the business background, for you and your wife kind of, come in is, having these multiple revenue streams and being part of, like, as you just mentioned, like 3 very big industries. It was really very clever on your part. Is that what you were kind of thinking in the beginning, Jason?
Yeah, I think part of it is it's a beneficial for the business model, but really it all stems from taking the best care of the patient. And so patients are going to get the most out of care if they also are doing the right things diet and exercise-wise and getting adjusted. We do a lot of corrective-based chiropractic. That is, we take a look at the spine and see where we can restore some natural movement or some natural curves that then take pressure off of these nerves that come out of that spine. The nervous system controls every function of the body, every tissue, every cell, every organ is that nervous system functioning at a high level. When there's a block in that nervous system, that communication to that tissue, cell, organ, the body doesn't function, and disease is the result. So when we can restore that natural function of the body, truth is chiropractic doesn't really fix anything, but they allow the body to get back to that natural state of balance or homeostasis and function at a level it was intended to in the first place.
That's something. How are you using technology today, Jason?
Well, like you said, when we have digital X-rays and things allow us to rapidly take films and limit exposure to patients and show them exactly what's going on. There's a body scan that we use that lets us take a really close look at posture, takes a close look at health markers in the body and the body mass index and weight distribution on the front and back of the feet, on the left and right side of the body. And we can really take a look at putting that with the X-ray and showing that patient what's important. Another big thing that's been key for us is since we own the billing company and we were doctors in practice, now we're the franchisor, we saw some of the glaring weaknesses of some of the EHR systems out there to run these businesses. So we teamed up and now co-own the software that runs not only our practices, but hundreds of practices across the country. Because it's such a beautiful system that allows the business owner to really have a real-time look at what's going on and the metrics to measure the numbers to see exactly what needs to be addressed and fixed. So that's also been a game changer for us technology-wise, and really separates us from a lot of our competitors.
You probably have hundreds of stories, Jason, but what's been one of the most interesting things that's happened to you since launching 100% Chiropractic?
I was blessed to have so many miracles in my practice, and they happen daily, almost to the point that we take them for granted. But there was emotional moments with patients where you impact and change their life, part because of getting them back on track, part of because you changed their philosophy a bit on how they view things. And so that was the thing I was worried about missing the most when I kind of took on the business side of things. I quickly realized that I get a lot of that same satisfaction from young docs that have failed before, or even franchisees that are not doctors, saying, I feel so good about what I do. I love going to bed at night knowing we impact the lives of thousands and millions of people. And the financial rewards I receive from doing something I feel good about anyway is an incredible mix. So I still get those testimonials. They're a little different. But knowing the millions of people that we take care of on an annual basis is so powerful to know the impact that we make. And, as fast as we're growing, that impact is just going to get greater and greater.
You mentioned your franchisees, Jason. You said that, some of them, they have the medical background, and some of them perhaps have the business background. But what other types of traits or characteristics do you look for, or do you want in your franchisees?
Well, we tend to draw a lot of people. Chiropractors obviously are an obvious. So, we're going to draw half of our mix as chiropractors opening a practice. From franchisees that are not a chiropractor, they tend to be people that want to make an impact at a different level than just a business. But they're looking at something different than just numbers. Numbers are important. People want to make an income. It's an investment, and we get that. We're very proud of our numbers, which is why we gladly show those in our FDD. But I think that people that fit really well with us have a passion for health and helping people. And, they also want to not be tied down in the practice. They would rather worry about opening 5 as opposed to working in 1. And the beauty of not being a chiropractor is you couldn't work in it even if you wanted to. And so they leave that up to the so that's what the role we take on as the franchisor. We train their team, we train their docs, we lead them daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly. We help them understand their numbers. So the franchise owner really reaps the benefits of us spending countless hours and making sure that team is making the impact they need to. The revenue is certainly a byproduct of a practice that's helping people.
How does the training work? You mentioned training, Jason. Is it different for somebody, again, based on their background, or is it the same, whether you're a chiropractor or maybe you're somebody that has business experience? Imagine this is, pre-COVID or post-COVID, but, how does the training typically work?
Yeah, for the doctor, it's intense, right? And so it starts out with a lot of remotes and videos and things like that. And it goes to a lot of personal, regular Zoom calls, regular phone calls. We get together quarterly as a company and present our numbers so we can help each other. We can also hold each other accountable for exactly what needs to be going on. And it's a group like no other. For the non-doctor, it kind of depends what role they want to play. We want them to know the ownership role. They need to know to understand the numbers, what to look for, how to lead that team. But most people say, I want to spend the time for the next, the first few months getting it open, and then I want to really not be part of it so much. And so we kind of listen to what that person's looking for, and whether they want to work in the practice to have nothing to do with the practice. We kind of take that and tailor a plan to get them exactly the knowledge that they need, knowing that we're going to work, all in on the doctor and the team that's going to actually see patients and run the practice on a day-to-day basis.
And your customers, Jason, I guess it's a wide variety of customers today, right? I'm sure the range is could be from teenage years to older people, but maybe you could describe there probably isn't such a thing as a typical customer, right? Because it's such a range.
Well, 10 to 15% of our practice is under the age of 2, right? And so, the beauty of our model, and really of chiropractic, not just our model. But every man, every woman, every child benefits from being adjusted, whether they're a newborn child or a 100-year-old, whether they're a Division I athlete or just a weekend warrior. And so chiropractic currently sees, based upon the numbers, roughly 10% of the population. But 100% of the population is a potential patient. So we have an untapped market of over 90% don't even know why they would see a chiropractor or understand the benefit it would play in their health. And so we don't really focus at 100% on the 5 to 10% that see a chiropractor. Those people come to us anyway. We focus on educating the people that don't know that they should see a chiropractor, and that helps build practices, incredibly fast, but also it shows us how much untapped potential this model has and this profession has. So we're real excited about where we are now, but really excited about the future.
When I have someone on the show like yourself, Jason, I mean, who is, you can certainly, in studying your background, it would certainly classify you as an entrepreneur. From everything you've learned up to this point, what advice would you give to our listeners in their quest to buy a franchise? Because you know that, being in franchising now, I mean, there seems like there's so much out there today. I think they say like there's something like 3,000 different systems alone in the United States, and there's so much to choose from. So a lot of our listeners in the beginning stages, they're kind of overwhelmed. They're like, oh my God, where do I begin? But from everything you've learned, what advice would you give to our listeners?
Well, I think asking around says a lot. I mean, I've learned a lot about the franchise world. Just, we're relatively young in the franchise world. We're a veteran in the chiropractic field. So I think asking around of who really backs up what they say. The numbers are there for a lot of different franchises. And so dig deeper than just financial success. What is something you want to do or have your name associated with? And then when you narrow that list down to 5, 10 things, start to ask around, do these people back up what they say? I love the fact that when people say, who should we call? What's a franchisee that you want us to call? And I say, you should call every single person that's opened one of our practices because I'm proud of what every one of them would say. I'm not going to give you 2 or 3 that I know are going to, sing our praise. I want you to talk to the one that's the lowest on the totem pole and the highest. And, we're real proud of what they would say based upon, because business has challenges. And it's not a matter of who's going to make your ride easy. It's who's going to be there when you get knocked down to help you. And I think when people do the research and talk to the right people, then they start to realize I really resonate with this model or this company at a high level. Sometimes chiropractic is something they didn't even consider, right? They were looking at mufflers and restaurants when they first came in. But then when they start to say, you know what, I love to work out. I see a chiropractor. I love the numbers. I didn't know I could even do this. And so, I think just doing a lot of research, not just listening to 1 or 2 people or just looking at the FDD numbers.
Yeah, I think it's great advice, Jason. I've seen it a lot. Hosting this show for 15 years, it's interesting that a lot of people, they have an initial idea of what type of franchise they'd like to go into. But in many cases, it seems like they go towards a totally different industry that they never even expected, right? Because as you were mentioning, they asked around, they started to do research, and they said, oh, wow, I didn't know about this chiropractic industry. It makes sense, So, I mean, your advice is fantastic. So I can ask you the final question because, you're the co-founder and CEO of the company. I mean, where do you see 100 Chiropractic, if you could look into a crystal ball, maybe 3 years, 5 years down the road? Where do you see the company, Jason?
Yeah, I've never been more excited about the growth. Vanessa and I had that question for many years, and we always said, we're going to continue to do this as long as it's fun, and we feel like we've never lost what made us successful in the first place. And I think we had to prove to ourselves, to sell 100 of these locations, are we still delivering that 100% service that we did when Vanessa and I were seeing patients ourselves? I think we've proven to ourselves that we are. And I think that with the team we have in place, which is just an extraordinary team of people, doctors and non-doctors that help these practices get to where they want to get. Where I want to be, I want to change the franchise business just like I changed the chiropractic business. I want it to be extremely profitable and incredibly fun for people. We're going to leave an impact on the chiropractic profession and leave it better than we found it. And I plan on doing the same for the franchise business and really leading some of these people that put their trust and their hard-earned money behind us and just showing how extraordinarily successful they can be and also feel really good about what they do when they lay their head on the pillow at night.
What's the best way, Jason, for our listeners to get more information on 100% Chiropractic? Of course, there's the franchise opportunity, but even the service itself. Are there any websites you want to kind of plug or promote?
Yeah, I mean, they can just look up 100%chiropractic.com. I think that's a great one that they could start with. For the business side, it's 100% franchise, 100, then the word %franchise.com spelled out.
Okay.
That's more the business side of it. The 100%, same way, spelled out 100% chiropractic is going to show them the patient-facing side. We have a social media presence like no other. So if you type in 100% chiropractic, you'll probably get hundreds of options from different locations and such. But from TikTok to Instagram to Facebook, we want to reach out every way possible to communicate with our patients. So it's pretty easy to find us, and I recommend they do that. I have a podcast that I do business-wise to tap into a little bit of what I represent. That's called the Entrepreneurial Juggernaut. And we put together a weekly show on that as well that people could listen and kind of see what kind of business philosophy that we have behind the scenes.
Oh, that's terrific. Well, I'm a podcast junkie, as you can imagine, so I'm going to listen to that podcast, by the way. So that's fantastic.
Awesome.
Check it out. For plugging that. So that's fantastic. Well, I can't tell you how much, Jason, I've enjoyed having you on the show, and I would already like to invite you back in the next year or two as you continue to grow, because I think 100% Chiropractic has a wonderful franchise model.
Marty, I would love to, and I can't stress enough how much I appreciate the opportunity to share with your listeners. And I just thank you, and I'd be happy to join you anytime that you would have us.
This has been my pleasure, Jason, and we'll be right back with more franchise interviews. Coming up on segment 2, you're going to hear what every franchipreneur needs to know before buying a franchise. We're going to play a clip from our popular Great Quotes in Franchising podcast right here on Franchise Interviews.
Franchisers, are you looking to reach aspiring entrepreneurs looking to buy a franchise? Are you looking to reach a highly educated audience on franchising? Franchise Interviews, an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com. Or you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Our weekly franchise radio show where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts and attorneys, and our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919. That's 610-905-2919.
Hi, everyone. This is Marty McDermott, the president of Franchise Interviews, and welcome to another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising, where each podcast you get to hear a great quote in franchising. We've been hosting Franchise Interviews many years now, and during that time we've had some incredible quotes on the show. Today you're going to get to hear a quote from Peter Baldini. And Peter was a guest that we had on the show many years ago, and it's interesting because you can kind of go back 13, 14 years ago to our earliest podcast and still learn some great lessons. Peter is the Chief Development Officer for Moran Industries, and Peter, on this particular podcast, discusses some of the several advantages of franchising compared to non-franchise businesses, things like support, guidance, and instantaneous relationships. So here we go with Peter Baldini of Moran Industries.
Franchising is all about systems. It's about, business systems that work, okay? And it's not always as all that specific to the widget that you're selling as it is to the systems that you provide the franchisee in order to run their business successfully. Okay? Right. And Moran Industries has the infrastructure in place with all the various support systems that a franchisee really needs to be effective in how they run their business. Keep in mind that a new franchisee coming into, owning their first business is not used to having to be the person with all the answers in several different areas of the business world, So someone who opens up an independent business has to be the HR person, the operations person, the marketing person, the financial person, all those different aspects have to be covered and all those different decisions have to be made. And with a system like Moran Industries, one of the great things is that our franchisees don't really have to be the experts in all those areas. They can pick up the phone any day of the week and they can call, the marketing department or the operations department or the accounting department and get support and answers for the decisions that they have to make on a daily basis. So that infrastructure is critical to the success of new franchisees who haven't owned their own business before.
Yeah, you're right.
And it starts all the way back in the beginning. It starts all the way back in the beginning when they first sign those agreements with all the help that we give them in the startup phase. You have two different aspects of it. You've got the startup support where we're helping them with, site selection and lease negotiation and equipment purchases and all those types of things. And then you move into a different area of development once they open their doors with the ongoing, support that they receive.
Right, fantastic. You wrote that great article, Peter. It was called "Gaining an Edge with Vendor-Supplier Relations." I saved that one in my archives. It sounds like Moran Industries has strong relationships with their vendor partners, which is fantastic for your new franchisees and your current franchisees, just working with you guys. Did you want to talk a little bit about that and why it's important?
Sure. I appreciate you mentioning that article. Didn't know that you had read it, but I actually, when that article was published, I got a lot of phone calls, from people in the industry about that article.
Yeah.
And it was really kind of a fun article to write because it's something that that I guess you have to be as old as me to understand those experiences,
Right.
but those vendor relationships are very important. My mentor, back years ago, I remember having dinner with him one night, and one of the things that he asked me a question. I said, "Geez, I'm not sure," and he said, what the answer to that is, and he said, "Well, you have to look at, in running a franchise company, you have to look at what all your available resources are to help your franchisees." And he asked me to define what my resources were. And I didn't define it real well at that time when I was a young kid,
Right.
But what I learned through that discussion early on was that you have a lot of different resources that, available to you that you don't always look at, you don't always recognize, and you don't always use properly. And the relationships with your vendors can be tremendous resources in helping your franchisees. We don't sell product to our franchisees. We're not in the product business. We used to be in the product business, and we decided that for our business, at least, some people do that well, but for our business, we decided that it was a distraction, and what we really needed to focus our energy on was our core business, which was being a good franchisor. So we went back at that time and began really establishing strong vendor relationships, negotiating well on behalf of our franchisees to give them the savings so that their cost of goods would be lower than their competitors. Found in the process that, we had many vendors who were willing to do other things for us, who were willing to share ideas with us on advertising and marketing support. For example, we've got a couple of vendors who have very strong marketing departments, and they work closely with our marketing department to help put together ad campaigns for our franchisees. So, the vendor relationships can be much more than just buying product, So our role with our vendors is to negotiate both, purchases and services on behalf of our franchisees to give them the best deal possible out there.
Absolutely. And the franchisees appreciate that, which I guess, you have a stronger relationship between the franchisee and franchisor, because you guys are
correct.
Out, so it's fantastic.
When we sold, several years ago, when we sold our wholesale parts distributorship, we actually sold it to one of our vendors as part of the negotiations with bringing them on as a
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.